Hi, I'm Crystal.
I'm Tara, and you're listening to the Rom-Com Detectives.
Welcome to Rom-Com Detectives, episode 19, Angelic Ego. Today, Tara and I will be talking about the 7th episode of Lucifer season 1 called Wingman. This episode originally aired on March 7th, 2016 and was written by Alex Katz-Nelson and was directed by Eric LaSalle, who some people might know from ER. So there's not much of a case briefing this week because it wasn't like a typical like murder of the week kind of thing. There was no victim, or the victim is Lucifer, I guess. Victim of theft, basically carrying on from before. But there are some big guest stars. The guy who plays Carmen, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Isaiah Whitlock Jr. He was very recently on Netflix's The Residents. That's The Residents, not The Resident, because apparently Netflix has The Resident and The Residents right now.
Keeping it simple.
Which I find very confusing. The Resident is a medical show. The Resident is like a murder mystery, kind of like Knives Out kind of thing. So, but he's also been on Law & Order SVU. He's been on Veep and The Wire. He's a very prolific actor. And actually, the guy who plays Sergey in the beginning, very small role, his name was Hal Austin, and he's actually got a pretty decent resume too as like guest starring roles and stuff. But he's been on NCIS New Orleans, he's been on Jessica Jones and The Blacklist, but the biggest guest star was actually the lady who plays Malcolm's wife, Heather Tom. She has just a couple of scenes in this episode, but she is apparently a major soap star. I looked at her IMDb and I was kind of shocked because she's credited with 1,701 episodes of The Bold and the Beautiful and 882 episodes of The Young and the Restless. I've never seen numbers that big for episode credits.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
I hope she's laughing all the way to the bank.
I know, for real. Oh my god.
Man.
There's actually a lot of soap stars who guest star on The Mentalist too, so I've seen some big numbers, but yeah, nothing this big.
It's wild.
Okay, let's get to the episode breakdown. The episode opens with Maze making eyes, or I guess having eye sex with a guy in Lux. She stands up and goes to the penthouse and he follows her, and then he finds her in the heated pool on Lucifer's balcony, which I don't think we actually get to see very often. Yeah.
No.
His pool.
Yeah, but she is making use of it and looking good. Like, she looks really like good at the beginning of this episode. I don't know.
Is she actually wearing the same thing that she was wearing in the club? Because I remember when like she was in the club, I was like, wow, she looks really good in that. But then
I think the top is the same.
The top looks the same, yeah.
Yeah, but I think she was wearing a leather skirt, so please don't wear that in the That's leather and water, not great. But yeah, she is wearing the same top because it looks
it's very distinctive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so he gets in the pool with her because she's like enticing him in, and then she pushes his head underwater. So I mean, I was like, okay, I get that she's like luring him in sexually, but what exactly did this guy think he was going to do to her with his head underwater? Because I was like, okay, I can imagine what it was intended to mean, but I also think that what he was supposed to do is probably easier to do with oxygen.
Yeah, you're not going to last that long. Kissing places without oxygen.
I was confused. Is he a merman?
Romantasy.
But we also got to see when he was walking in a decent look at Lucifer's library side of his penthouse. I don't think we get to see that very often either.
We don't. And I also think that at some point they kind of like rearrange the penthouse a bit, because some things end up in different places after a while. But yeah, I think everyone watching is just mostly like, oh my god, he has a library with a rolling ladder, which
so cool.
Just basically the dream of
Any
anyone who ever
bookworm.
saw like Beauty and the Beast when they were a kid, Disney version, and you're like, that's what I want too.
And we later learn that all of his books are like rare books,
Yeah.
right? Like some of them signed by Shakespeare.
Personalized.
He's got an insane library. Okay, so Sergey, despite Maze holding him underwater, because he goes underwater and she holds him there because that's her method of torturing him. And then Lucifer appears and tells him that they're going to torture him until he tells him where Lucifer's wings are, but he doesn't know where they are. And so this makes Lucifer start thinking, maybe we're going about this the wrong way. And I love the way Maze is just so like confused, because to her, there's no other answer than violence and torture.
Maze, something that I noticed in this scene was like Maze's whole face journey of like expressions is so funny. Like when she gets to torture, she's so delighted, like a little kid that's just been given candy. And then when she realizes that she's going to have to stop.
Daddy says no, stop that. She just looks so like,
so
what
sad.
do you mean? I have to stop? But
This is my
why?
favorite thing. And it's so, she doesn't, like, no words needed. She just has a whole journey on her face, and it's awesome.
Yeah, she's so good at it. She understood the assignment. But he says that this is the third guy they've questioned this week, and so he suggests maybe it's time to seek professional help. And then we go to the station. Cops are staring daggers at Chloe, and they're talking about her openly as she walks by. And Dan is telling her that Malcolm, who's been in a coma for months after Palmetto Street, this is Paolucci's old partner,
Yeah.
will be taken off life support that night. And so she turns around. There's like a big memorial photo of him on a stand behind her, and he says that there's going to be a living wake at the station, and he suggests that she stays away. And then he tells her that, oh, maybe you should close the case on him. And she gets angry because, and I don't know, do you think she's being unreasonable here? Because she says that, he's asking her to go back on everything that she stands for. And, but I don't know, I can kind of see both sides for Dan at this
Well,
moment before
at
we know
this
like the
moment.
contents.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I get it. Like, it's for Chloe, right? It's like if she thinks that, like, if she closes the case and basically backtracks on what she thought was happening, then it means that everybody else was right, and right to kind of like ostracize her and everything too. And I think so that it's, but more even than the way it is, like, because I think with Chloe, it's not that other people don't like her, really. It's the fact that she can't stand the idea of like injustice and basically lying, because she's still, yeah,
She won't toe the line that everybody else expects her to. So.
exactly. Because to close the case now would mean that she never gets the truth, and then that, yeah, I think it comes down to kind of like the morality of it in her mind. And that's, whereas like Dan wants her to kind of like make it better for
The
Malcolm's
the people who've
family.
left, yeah. Yeah, so see, that's what I mean, where I can see both sides, because on the one hand, if what he's saying is true and it's gonna make things harder for his family, then maybe, you know, but at the same time, I do understand what Chloe is saying too. So it's just, I like that they crafted this particularly difficult situation for Chloe, and it also explains to us a lot about why she's alone, why she has to work with a consultant, and the way that she sticks to her guns here just also kind of tells us maybe why she's by herself too, because she seems very rigid and unwilling to compromise her moral compass for certain things. And I mean, the LAPD is known for its it's not exactly known for its
What? Which I mean is not even us editorializing. Like Lucifer points it out in like the first episode. You know,
yeah, yeah,
it's like your corrupt little organization or whatever. So, and yet I think Chloe is trying so hard to maintain being not corrupt. You know, like
yeah,
she doesn't want to be seen as part of that corruption because she got into it for the right reasons, which is
yeah.
protecting people.
But Dan tells her that he's not telling her to turn back on everything she stands for. He just says that you should close the case in 24 hours. And so I was confused about that because he had said that Malcolm was being taken off life support that day. So why does she have 24 hours?
Look, timelines in this show don't make sense. This is something that I've come to realize, and just you have to at some point go, yeah, I guess we just,
This is to put the time crunch on her, basically.
yeah.
Yeah. So at her house, she's looking at the Palmetto Street photos, and I didn't understand why, but I mean, her door behind her is wide open. Did is
She's
Lucifer
letting in
already?
the air, maybe. I don't know.
It's hot.
It's hot. It's LA, I guess, even though she still wears coats all the time. But anyways, you know.
But I mean, I did notice the background noise. So and like they when they transitioned the scene here, they showed the beach. So I guess she's definitely in a beach house. Or
Yes.
supposed to be in a beach house because if you listen, there's like sounds of like seagulls and like ocean waves and things like that. So she lives in a. I mean, Lucifer does comment about
Yeah,
how
because
he
it's her, well, and
it's her mom's place.
it's her
Yeah,
mom's place, and her mom was, you know, had enough money, even though she wasn't, she was like cult famous, I guess.
yeah, from her cheesy movies.
Mhm.
But yeah, so her door is wide open and Lucifer appears behind her, and it, this was a really great scene between the two of them because she's just so irritated, and I love how she says she doesn't have time for his Luciferness.
I love how he's like, is this what you do for fun? Like, what are you doing? Pick up a hobby.
I love that he mentions knitting.
I know. I was like, knitting. This is definitely a Crystal approved hobby.
But he actually seems kind of nice. He's sincerely he because I mean he wants something from her, but he's
Yeah.
trying to be nice about it. He asked if she'd like to talk about it, but then he kind of ruins the moment by saying, sex is always on the table. Uh, but then Chloe tells him that it's palmetto, and she's mentioned it to him before, so he's kind of familiar with the name. And she gives him the basics of like her new problem, which is that there's a time crunch on her case now. She needs to solve it. And she gives him a little more background on how she's ostracized and how and he tells her, she doesn't need anyone's permission to seek the truth. And then he asks her, he tells her that he's working a case of his own and he's hit a snag. And when she asks what it is, he tries to. I like when he feels awkward about things like, oh, I wish you hadn't asked me that. And then he
Yeah, because he's not going to lie, but then he has to figure out,
figure out how to dodge.
yeah, loophole.
But so she says that what she does is get a set of fresh eyes, and he loves this idea. And she's like, "Oh yeah, maybe this can work out. We can go. We can both be each other's fresh eyes." But she turns around and
He's
he's
gone.
gone.
Not your fresh eyes, somebody else's.
But she does mutter, "Bob's your uncle," and this is a UK phrase, right?
Mm-hmm.
It basically means, "And there you go."
Yeah. Yeah. Like typical Lucifer. Great.
Yeah, yeah.
Get used to
So
it, Chloe. Get used to it.
So next we go to Lucifer standing at the beach, and Amenadiel's there, and he's asking why they're there. And Lucifer tells him that that was the spot 5 years ago where he landed in LA with Maze, and that's where he had Maze cut them off. Then he tells him that his wings have been stolen, and Amenadiel looks very concerned. And he wants his help getting them back. And then Amenadiel kind of lays it out what the problem is here, like why this is important. He says it's a piece of divinity and that in human hands it can be very dangerous. And so this is where they introduced this part of like the lore where like divine items, like humans can't handle them, like even just looking at them or touching them and things like that. So that helps establish that part.
Although also still a moment of confused lore
Yeah. Yeah.
where Amenadiel says that it's been his job to patrol hell and make sure that
Nobody's getting out.
the souls don't get out. And I'm like, yeah, you change that later, but that's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
When do they change that? They changed that in season 2?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
They change. There's a lot of like refining of that once I think they introduce the mom character.
Yeah, yeah. So
which is in season 2.
I guess so what they've been doing in season 1 is just going with a traditional concept of hell where tortured souls are trying to get out.
Yeah.
And Lucifer keeps them in with the demons. But like Amenadiel questions like why he wants his wings back, and he actually questions why he actually held on to them all this time. And oh my god, I kept thinking like, oh, Linda would love to be in this conversation and weighing in. But Linda's actually not in this episode at all. So.
No, neither is Trixie.
Yeah, we missed them. But Lucifer insists that he just wants his property back. But Amenadiel tells him to fix his own mess. So.
Brothers.
Now that he's been rebuffed by Amenadiel, he shows up at Chloe's house again.
Of course.
Hey, I've got this great idea. She's so irritated because, I mean, she had this idea earlier and he was just poof gone. But now that he wants her help, she demands that he tell her what he's working on, which again makes him uncomfortable. He's trying to think about how he can get around it, but he doesn't actually get around it, and he actually just straight up tells her, you know, I want my wings. And I like this scene too because the way she reacts.
She's just, yeah, her she's funny little,
so hard not to laugh.
Her little giggles and her little like, okay. And I think I love too the way that Lucifer, like every once in a while, he'll just like say the absolute dead truth, and it's so obvious that the people around him do not believe him because my angel wings is not a thing you expect somebody to say.
Especially a tall, dark, and handsome club owner.
Yeah. And the way she's kind of like half taking him seriously as she can, and half like just, are you...
Her brain is on pause. Like, it's not functioning. You can see the gears turning, and she's like...
trying to make sense of why. He would have, like, the line about if he's big into cosplay. She's just... It's so funny. Yeah.
And it gets even funnier when she says, okay, I will put on an APB on angel wings.
On angel wings. Yeah.
And then he offers to help on Pomelo. She says, oh, great, we can use the help. And he's surprised. And I was kind of surprised too. Like I said, like I haven't watched the show in a while. And like Dan just walks right into the scene. So I was like, how much of that did he hear? And where was he? Was he just...
And he couldn't have heard that much because then later he's the one who gets the call for some reason on the angel wings. And he's like, surprised. Did you put out an APB on angel wings? Yeah. Also, why were they calling Dan? Anyways, it does. Yeah, sure. So there's some little plot holes. Little plot holes in this one. It's fine.
Just like how Lucifer appears in her house and her door was wide open.
There's a couple of dropped stitches, as it were, to go back to the knitting.
So the three of them arrive at Palmetto Street, and Chloe wants him to role play. And so that's how we learn about the Malcolm case. Chloe explains that she was a witness to what happened to him. They were investigating a drug trafficker named Nicholas Audi, and they had arrested one of his men, and he was gonna testify against Audi, right? But then he changed his mind, and it was after he talked to Malcolm, and so that made her suspicious of Malcolm. So she followed him to Palmetto Street, and that's why she was watching what was going on there. And Malcolm was in there, and it looked like he was making a deal. He was exchanging money with the guy Audi and the witness guy. So she thought that's why she thinks he's dirty. So that's why she's investigating him. So there's this whole scene. But then she makes a noise, and Malcolm, she thinks that Malcolm sees her, but then he doesn't. He doesn't say anything, and then after that, the shooting starts, and she
Yeah.
doesn't really see it.
I just want to say that this whole thing is so funny with Lucifer, and like the way Lucifer is in this scene where she's
Yeah.
like, "You're the seedy criminal element," and he's like, "Of course I am." And then when she's saying like, "Oh, he's," I thought the money was there, so I was making. And he pulls out this like wad of cash and is like, "Is this enough?" and hands it to Dan, and it's just like, God bless, so funny. Lucifer is into it.
And the way that Dan and Lucifer are just so irritated that they have to be in the same room together.
Yes,
It's gold. And good build up to
yes,
their bromance later.
yes.
So after running through the scenario, it becomes apparent that yes, fresh eyes are good because Lucifer says it makes no sense for Audi to kill Malcolm because he's more valuable to him alive. Although to be fair, this is something that I think most cops would would, would be able to deduce. Chloe speculates that maybe somebody else was there, but Dan insists that there was no one because the cops searched the place up and down. And see, I this part I was just like squinting at too because that's a weak argument. Because if someone shoots up somebody, they're not gonna stick around.
What?
So I don't know what he's talking about. They search this place up and down. Like the guy's not gonna hide there.
Or will he?
So Dan gets a call, as Tara mentioned, and it's because they found the angel wings that she put the APB out, and Lucifer is really excited. I love the little detail here. He's like super excited, and like when he goes to leave, he slaps her on the arm, and she's just like, "What the heck?"
It is peak Chloe exasperation.
So then we go. I thought the scene for this place was weird. It was like randomly outside of a bakery.
Yeah,
I guess the FBI agent that had answered their call had told them, "Oh, meet me at this bakery slash cafe," because he comes
yeah.
out with a coffee in his hand. I was just like, "Wait, huh?" But
You guys are on my schedule now, and I need caffeine. All right, FBI guy.
so they Lucifer and Chloe are looking at a photo of his wings on a tablet. I guess maybe the FBI agent gave them the tablet to look at the pictures.
While he ran in to get a coffee.
Yeah. But they got a tip about a black market auction that they're going to be raiding that night, and he tells Lucifer that as long as he can prove that he owns them, he can get them back after a certain period of time. And then after that, Lucifer's just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds good." But Chloe's suspicious because it's not like him to be so chill about something like that.
No.
So next we go to Lucifer. He heads to the auction, and as he's walking in, and oh my god, he's doing it again. He's like he's buttoning up his his
Yes.
his cuffs. I
Does
is,
love to fiddle with a cuff. That's
is this a men's fashion thing? Is it easier to drive with your cuffs unbuttoned and then you just button them up when you're heading into your thing, or is this
I don't
just
know. It's a
something that
Lucifer
Tom did for
twitch.
Lucifer?
I think it's a Lucifer-ism.
But so as he's walking in, he stops because he senses Amenadiel is hiding in the shadows, and Amenadiel assures him that he's just there to make sure he doesn't screw up getting his wings back. And he tells them that the FBI is going to be raiding the place, so they have to stop that and have to get it back so that the FBI doesn't have a piece of divinity. And then at the door, Lucifer tries to bribe his way in, but it doesn't work, which was amusing. How much money do you think he gave him? Like $200-$300?
Probably just tucked it in his pocket, and the guy kept it too. He was
Yeah. He's like scram. But then Lucifer takes out a coin. He shows it to the camera, and then he's immediately let in. And
so
then
I have a behind the scenes, like, this whole section is such a hard suspension of disbelief for me personally, because I know the exact building that they're in.
oh, the Crimson Hall place. I was
Yep.
actually wondering about that.
So it's called the Chan Center, and it's at UBC, and I did plays there.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
So the whole, like, there's so much stuff that happens, basically, like, this whole side of the storyline that's happening in this building, like the
Huh.
auction, everything. I'm like, yeah, I know everything. Like, I know what it's like backstage there. It's so weird. And
That's cool though.
it is. But then the funny thing is, and later when Lucifer goes to the guy's house, goes to
Yeah,
Carmen's
yeah, yeah.
house, I'm like, it's still the same building. Like,
Oh really? So it's
yeah,
not a house?
it's not. It's all, they filmed it in just a different location, but still all in that same Chan Center building. And so I'm like, this is not a separate place. He
Oh,
just
that's
went
cool.
to,
That's a nice
yeah.
behind the scenes tidbit.
So it's very weird because, and also the way that they're walking around and stuff, I'm like, you guys just reset to a different place. Like, there, it isn't a path that makes any real sense. It's just them using the space in different ways. But yeah,
I mean, if they can, right?
mhm.
Good for them.
Yeah, yeah. It was clear they were like, okay, we're going to do as much as we can with this one location, probably at night when the university was closed and blah blah. But yeah, the Chan Center.
All right, so next we go to the hospital. Dan is taking Chloe to see Malcolm, which was kind of, I don't know, manipulative.
Yeah,
Like, even if you don't know the context yet, it just
yeah.
kind of feels like he was pressuring her pretty hard. And this was kind of not brutal, but just kind of ouch.
I'm trying to remember back to how I felt when I first watched it and didn't know the sort of trajectory of what was
Yeah.
going to happen. And I remember finding Dan very off putting in this entire episode
Yeah.
and being like, what is going on here? Like, you're just acting so strange and kind of swinging from like, close the case. No, I'll help you with the case. No, here's the family. No,
Hmm.
like, and I was like, there's something, I don't know, man. I don't got my eyes on you.
Yeah,
Like,
Dan was pretty sus. But yeah, so he takes Chloe to his room and they watch as the wife and son cry over Malcolm. And then she spots Chloe and then she comes to the door and she's in tears and she tells her to just leave. Which, okay, so I think this is probably why it made me not like that Dan did this because he's like telling her, okay, you got to drop this case so that you don't hurt the family. And then he brings Chloe and like he
leaves her
doesn't really
standing in front of a window. Like, it's just so weird.
I know. And obviously that really hurts the wife.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just felt very self-serving and manipulative. So
Yes.
also what a strange looking room. It's got blinds.
Also, I would like to say, the whole back to our discussions in previous episodes about getting from place to place in LA is like, we go from this where they're like at the hospital to the next scene where, I mean, all of this is happening at sort of the same time, but then Chloe is going to like magically show up. I'm like, how did you get here so fast and change outfits? Like, what? Did you like quick change in the back of the car? It's so, while racing from one side of LA to the, like, it's just a very, there's some small plot holes. It's
Yeah,
fine.
because it's already nighttime, right?
Yeah.
Because they're already at the auction, and it seems like it's dark at the hospital too.
Yeah.
So
Time is moving very slowly.
the auction was conveniently right next door to the hospital. So
Oh, yeah.
that's
Downstairs,
that,
maybe.
yeah, yeah. So she could just change in the hospital bathroom.
She did. Absolutely. She brought her like fancy dress with her.
So back at the auction, a man is gushing over Lucifer's coin to a man named Carmen, who is apparently in charge of the auction. Amenadiel is in here too, and he's criticizing his apparent disbelief in his client's belief. And Carmen says that he believes in the almighty dollar. Lucifer says that the coin is not for sale and he only used it to gain access to Carmen and he demands his wings back. And I guess he didn't really think about what would happen after that point. He probably just thought, maybe, they'd be scared of him and they'd give them back. But he doesn't actually show his devil face to actually scare them. So I don't know.
I guess because Amenadiel was there too. Like that, I think
Yeah,
maybe he
yeah.
wouldn't.
He seemed a little too confident in me being able to just stroll in and but yeah, I think maybe it's what you said, Amenadiel's at his side, so maybe he
This
feels a
is
little more invincible.
maybe
My freak
Amenadiel's
bros
not
here.
the Amenadiel's not the only one showing some angelic ego in this episode,
Yes, yes.
perhaps.
But so Carmen's reaction is to have his men pull guns, and this amuses Amenadiel, and he dares them to shoot them because he thinks they're invincible. But Lucifer is actually worried because he's still under the impression that he can get shot, although he hasn't told Amenadiel this yet. And he offers to buy the wings outright, but Carmen turns it down and just tells him, "Oh, you can go bid at auction."
Mm-hmm.
And then in the auction, Amenadiel is like, "Why are you afraid of guns?" And that's when Lucifer tells him that he's dealing with a mortality sitch. I like that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually delights Amenadiel because now he's like, "Oh, well, all I need to do now is wait for someone to shoot you."
And surely that is just around the corner.
And then he'll go right back to hell. And it doesn't seem like Lucifer thought of this because he's kind of, I don't know, he seems rattled by Amenadiel saying that. Because yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to go back to hell, but yeah, I mean, if he thinks that he could just get sent back just from one
Yeah.
human's actions, right? So the auction begins and Carmen talks to the crowd. He introduces the first item, which is a set of chains, which causes Lucifer to snicker, and they make jokes about how the actual guy whose chains they were actually was actually too big to fit into them. And that's when Chloe shows up and she says she came to warn him about the FBI thing, but I don't know. She knows that Lucifer already knows the FBI is going to raid the place, so.
But they're coming in 5 minutes now.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's the 5-minute warning. This is your call.
But see, I want to know because he asked her like, "How did you get in here?" And like she's like, "You're not the only one who can pull strings." And I think they deliberately leave this vague because they didn't want to have to go into like a whole thing because he had to like pull out his coin to get in and
Yeah.
everything, but she just shows up. But yeah, like what? Let's
Hey,
think of
maybe
some.
hot tub high school man. She's like, you want to see the assets? There you go. Let me in.
I'll give you a behind the scenes look.
A B cup behind the scenes look.
Oh boy. But Lucifer introduces her to Menadiel and says that's his brother. And after she gets over her initial surprise, the two of them flirt, and this makes Lucifer very uncomfortable because
I love it. It's so funny.
I
And
know,
the fact that I really love that so many of the characters, like when they find out that Lucifer and Amenadiel are brothers, like there's always that moment where they're like,
huh?
I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, but one of you is like the pasty British white and the other, and they just don't, but neither of them actually ever remarks on, like, Lucifer and Menadiel are just like, yeah, so we're
Yeah,
brothers, obviously.
I love that about their relationship. Like
Yeah.
they just like shrug it off like it's nothing, and it should be nothing too. But yeah, humans.
Also, Lucifer's face when Chloe says that Amenadiel got all the charm in the family is like,
And that he's so
uh,
handsome.
he's so handsome.
She loves to dig it in with him.
I'm like,
She knows that it's gonna drive him
yeah,
nuts.
yeah. And it does.
But then Lucifer's wings are unveiled and everyone is in trance, including Chloe. Like she's looking at them like, oh. But that's when the FBI storms in. And Carmen rushes out with his men. Chloe goes to look for them and she finds nothing but a brick wall. And then Lucifer's like looking at Amenadiel like, aren't you gonna help me? So he slows down time for him. But then Lucifer goes up on stage and he realizes that the wings are a fake. Because I guess he pulls off something. It was
Yeah,
glued on.
it's like
Cheap plastic stuff.
the glow. It's the, what do they call it? That glows, like it's.
Oh, I
Sometimes
can't
people,
remember.
they put them in like dresses and stuff to make it look like it's lit up from within.
Shimmering?
Yeah, so it's like a
Or
kind
fairy
of,
lights?
yeah, but I think it's oh, it's going to bug me now. Whatever that, if you know what the weird little filaments of light are called, leave a comment below. Yeah, I mean, because I don't think it's like battery powered necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so anyways, he realizes that they're fake because he's got like fake glow. It's not real divine glow. It's fake divine glow.
But so Chloe does find the hidden door that Carmen escaped through, and that leads her to thinking back to Palmetto Street. She's like, oh, maybe there was a fake door over there too. So she goes back to Lucifer and finds out that he's very unhappy because, he tells her that, somebody switched out my wings. These aren't my actual wings. But she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to go check out something at Palmetto. And she asks if he's coming. And I think it's cute that, like, she already, whether she realizes it or not, considers him her partner.
Yeah.
Because she wants him to go with her. She wants him to help her figure this out. Yeah, I like that. But of course, he's like, no, I'm gonna find my wings, and they don't part on good terms.
Yeah, they are not happy with each other.
So Amenadiel comes up to Lucifer and snarks at him. He says, maybe I can ask Father for some rain and we can make it a moment.
Ooh.
I kind of like this line, but it's also like kind of cringy for like it, and it's very on brand for Amenadiel because
Yes.
he's not like a super like tuned in to pop culture kind of guy, and so he kind
No.
of yeah.
I do like that Amenadiel, if there is a cringe thing to say, unintentionally like cringe, then Amenadiel will be the one to say it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of his personality. That's a
Yeah.
large part of what makes him so hilarious.
Yeah.
So it's a good cringe.
It's Amenadiel branded cringe.
All right, so back at Palmetto Street, Chloe and Dan are looking around, and she's telling him about this secret door that she thinks might be there, and they do find one.
Was Dan just like sitting in the car outside Crimson Hall the whole time, being like, do do
I,
do?
I don't know. I guess maybe she asked him to meet her there.
Again, I say, apparently we just traverse all of Los Angeles at all times of the day in like 5 seconds.
My friend Donuts, she was saying how she loves how we're always talking about the traffic reality versus Lucifer. So she
It's
said we
like,
should
yeah,
just
yeah,
call it our traffic report.
angels and demons, sure, whatever, suspension, but traffic in LA, come on. I can't suspend my disbelief to that degree.
Well, okay. But I mean, maybe it's okay because this is actually traffic in Vancouver.
Traffic in Vancouver sucks too. We don't have freeways. It's bad.
Okay, well, there goes that theory. But so Chloe and Dan go down the secret passageway and they find out that it heads to the street, so it's actually an exit. And Chloe happens to spot a key in the dirt and it's got 999 on it. And I think they explain what this is later, but she
They do,
basically
yeah.
says that it's issued to people in LAPD and that Malcolm had his on him, so she knows it wasn't his. And so that means that there was another cop and that they knew about the passageway. So she thinks that this was actually Malcolm's shooter.
Yeah.
And this is where Dan does what you said earlier, where he's like, we're going to do this together.
Are we?
I know. It's like, bro, you've just been trying to tell her to drop the case. And now
Yeah.
you're just like,
I mean, this too, I mean, is interesting when you look at it because you see the flimsiness of certain excuses and certain things, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why it was so flimsy because
of this. Yeah.
because of this, because it really is like so many, like these are like intentional plot holes, I think, where we're supposed to be thinking like, hey, wait a second. So they thoroughly checked the place, but nobody found the secret door. Like, how bad are these cops?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, wait a second. Who checked things out? Who was so thorough? I don't know if... Yeah.
All right. Next scene is at Carmen's home. He's
But is it?
relaxing.
Because it's not. It's just down the hall.
Carmen is chilling in a chair and staring in awe at something, and you can pretty much guess that he's staring at the wings, even though
Yeah.
they don't show them at this point. But then the door rings, and it's Lucifer, and oh my god, when he answers the door, the smile and the look on his face is
Yeah.
so it's very unsettling. He's smiling, but he looks very
It's a very
scary
murderous
Lucifer.
smile. It's the devil's smile, which I think is awesome that every once in a while they pull that out without having to show the devil face,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
They show how dangerous he can seem, and especially when it's contrasted with him being like goofy earlier or kind of, being seductive, and then all of a sudden you get dangerous and you're like, oh, right, you are
It,
scary.
yeah, and yet he also still kind of looks goofy, so it's like a
Yeah,
goofy, unhinged look.
yeah, that's the scariest of them all.
But he invites himself in. He starts verbally tearing Carmen down, and then he sees his wings. And even he's like, actually, his breath is kind of taken away when he actually sees them
Mhm.
again. And it just kind of speaks to like his character and like what the wings mean to him, his trauma with his dad, and all that kind of stuff, which they get into later. But right now, they're like kind of, I think, setting the basis for that.
Yeah,
It's a painful thing for him, and
yeah,
yet
there's
he
a lot
also
more
and
there
yet
than just.
yeah, and yet you can also, I mean, you can also just see that they do still mean a lot to him
Mhm.
on some level. Carmen says it wasn't his fault and that he thought that he was getting a sculpture. He actually gets on his knees and begs Lucifer not to take them away, saying he can't live without them. And this is what Amenadiel was talking about
Yeah,
when he said that humans and divinity, they can't handle it. So
yeah,
but I love this part because
me
Lucifer
too.
gets so angry. He says they're his, and then the way that they set up this shot is he's standing in front of them as if they're still attached to him, and so we get a look at what he would look like with his wings, and
We're
it's
kind of seeing it from Carmen on his knees' perspective, I think, because it's a slightly up shot too. So
yeah, yeah,
you get, and Lucifer is angry,
angry,
and you get this avenging angel kind of image of him, and the wings are so beautiful.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just a really gorgeous shot.
But he's still suspicious of something, so he demands to know who tipped him off, who told him about the wings, because yeah, I mean that's suspicious. Like, how would this guy even know to look for something in that container, which was in a hidden compartment, right? So next we go to Lucifer. It's still the same night because it's nighttime. He's sitting on the beach with his
The
wings
longest
behind
night
him.
of all time.
Because yeah, now he drives down to the beach. Amenadiel shows up and he tries to convince Lucifer that, it's time to go back to hell. You still want your wings, right? But then Lucifer flicks his cigarette and sets the wings on fire. And so I thought, does this mean they're highly flammable, or do you think he doused them in gasoline or something?
I think he doused them in gasoline. That was
Yeah,
my,
okay.
yeah.
And this really upsets Amenadiel, but then Lucifer reveals that he knows that he was the one who actually tipped Carmen off. He was actually the one who orchestrated the theft in the previous episode, which means that he's basically responsible for that man's death, the
Yeah.
security guard from the previous episode. And Lucifer admits, his scheme almost worked, and he admits that it was a half measure, but now he knows that he doesn't actually need them, and that he knows that he's never going back to hell.
Amenadiel doesn't like this.
He starts beating his ass.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's actually, I mean, this scene is so great because it is so, on the one hand, like there's serious stuff happening, but on the
Yeah,
other, it's totally brothers
yeah, yeah.
fighting with each other. Like they have this kind of, between them, there's the kind of brother chemistry is just working really well.
Yeah, because I mean, he's literally punching him in the face, and he's
Yeah.
he's not even intimidating. He's just egging him on, right? He's
Yeah.
taunting him, and I love when he yells "fall as I did,"
Yeah. It's so good.
because it's such a cut to Menadiel, because he's like, I don't know, he's supposed to be this top dog angel. He's like, I don't know, he sits on a very high horse, basically.
And to the And to the audience that's been watching the things that Amenadiel has done,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we
that
talked about how
Amenadiel,
he has
exactly.
compromised morals.
So he is, I mean, Lucifer is talking specifically about this moment, you know, sure, beat the hell out of me, or beat the hell back into me, who knows? But, you know, he basically accuses Amenadiel of what we already know is happening. Amenadiel
Yeah.
is no longer,
He's no angel.
he's no angel.
And I mean, like when he says fall as I did, it's kind of like him saying, like, oh, who's actually the devil here? Because,
Exactly.
I mean, he hasn't technically done anything
Nope.
like
And
compared
this
to
is how
what he's
easy it
doing.
is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great scene. But Amenadiel says it's not over and that he'll do whatever it takes to get him back to hell. Dun dun dun.
And I'm sure it will definitely be Angelic. Oh, wait. This again, like, what time is it?
I know. It must be like 3 or 4 in the morning.
At the station at the wake that's happening
Oh,
at
that's right.
3:53.
That's right. Oh my god. Yeah, that's right. The next scene is his living wake. It can't be early in the morning.
Like, it
Time has
just
been compressed greatly. The sun sets at 3 p.m. in LA.
it makes me wonder, because you know, in the very first question that you asked was like, why does he give her 24 hours if
Yeah.
this is happening today? Honestly, this whole thing could have been saved if they just moved this to the next day and been like,
It's
Malcolm
tomorrow.
is being taken off life support tomorrow, and then it would not seem as like insane that all of this is being compressed into one night with driving time.
But Paolucci starts making a speech, and then he spots Chloe standing in the back, and he gets upset. And so Chloe's like, "I want to say some things about Malcolm." And she says he was a hero, and that she can't take back the things she said, but that she's gonna close the case against him. And then they toast him. But then Dan and Chloe whisper in the back, and she's basically only doing this so that she can find the dirty cop that they're looking for, the guy whose key was dropped in that passageway.
Who could it be?
So at Lux, Lucifer is playing his piano. He looks very sad.
He does, but also very handsome. And it's a sad
Yes.
song. I always liked this piece because it's not like I think it's an original thing. But so usually he's playing some other piece of music.
So Maze approaches and says that she cleaned up his mess at the beach, and they've been pretty at odds with each other. Although I guess, yeah, I mean, they still are kind of at odds because, I mean, earlier he scolded her and told her to stop torturing the guy. So
yeah.
But he apologizes and says, now you're stuck with me, because now he knows that he's really not going back because he's burned his wings. So, but you can tell by what he's saying and how he's saying it that because she had, I guess, made a vow to protect him.
Yeah.
And so that's why she's with him. But he's about to tell her, that he releases her from that vow. But she cuts him off and says that she's with him from now until the end. With a lot of bumps and betrayals in between.
Yeah. And so here is that we're coming to like Tara's pet meta at this point, because Lucifer's sitting there, right, with all of these shot glasses lined up on like both full and empty on his piano. And Maze says, "We're a team, aren't we?" And he kind of like doesn't really commit to it, but he takes one shot glass and he drinks it. He toasts her and drinks it, and then she leaves. He does not give one to Maze. But
Chloe comes.
Yes. And so when they have this whole scene, and when they sort of, kind of reaffirm their partnership, the team that he actually cares about, he gives her a shot and he has one, and they do it together. And Maze sees that. And I'm like, ooh, the whole who gets a drink from Lucifer's hand is like a thing that carries through the entire show. So yeah, Maze wants to be as important to Lucifer as Lucifer is to her, and as Chloe is, and she just isn't. And that's, I think, what leads to a lot of those bumps and betrayals along the way.
Because I mean, they've spent so long together,
Mhm.
and that's a hard thing for anyone to let go of, right?
But the reality is they're not a team to Lucifer. Lucifer doesn't
Yeah,
see her as an equal. He sees her
yeah.
as a
Servant.
servant. And I actually think I'm glad that they have this in there, because there's lots of times when, Lucifer is our kind of like hero character, but this
Yeah,
is not like, this is actually one of those ugly bits of his personality that
yeah. He has a
they,
blind spot. He doesn't
Mhm.
see what he's doing to her.
And they kind of don't pull that punch. Like they let him treat Maze pretty dismissively a lot of the
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And as Maze starts to learn more about herself, she's like, wait a second, this
You
is
can't
not
do that
respect.
to me. It's not cool.
It's not cool. And the audience also thinks it's not cool, which is one of the ways to show that Lucifer actually is, he has flaws.
Hang on. Sorry, my daughter needed to get her hot funyuns.
I mean, life or death. That's a Cool Ranch Puffs moment right there.
Uh-huh. So in this scene, though, Lucifer tells Chloe that while he was searching for the rings, he realized that he doesn't need them, and they're only worth what someone was willing to pay for. And he says he's moved on to bigger and better things. Hint, hint, her.
Mhm.
But he asks her how Palmetto went, and she's kind of vague too. And then that's when they have their toast.
But also, they look so good in this scene.
I know. Her
Like,
makeup is flawless. Her hair looks
flawless.
really good.
And I mean, what is this, like her third costume change of the evening? Like, what time is it now? It's now like 7 a.m. She's like, just a sec, I had to stop and like freshen up and put on my whole new look for you. Anyways, sorry, just TV logic. It's fine. But yeah, and I mean, over this show, there's quite a few like piano conversations,
Mhm.
and this is just another one of those great piano moment conversations.
I know. They have great car combos and they have good piano
They
combos.
do, and also a couple of like really excellent balcony convos, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
eventually. So yes.
Speaking of balconies, right behind this cute little couple scene, Maze is standing there and she takes out a feather from a little compact that she has and she kept it from the beach scene. That becomes important later.
Yeah, a
But
glowy feather.
a
It's a
real
magic.
one though. It's a
Magic.
real one.
Yeah.
So the final scene is at the hospital. The doctors remove Malcolm from life support, but then a hand goes up to the window, the one with the blinds.
Mhm.
And as Malcolm flatlines, the hand stops that and he comes back to life. And then we see Amenadiel walking away and the medical staff rushes in. And that's the end of the episode.
Bum,
So,
bum, bum.
next step in Amenadiel's evil plan.
Yep. Another trip down the fallen angel stairs there.
That was a good one. All right, so let's go to our rewatches. We don't have a lot of updates, actually. We have Couch Watch, no updates, no Devil Face updates, no Chest Hair updates.
Sadly.
The title line for this week's episode was said by Lucifer, I believe. He calls a Menadieu his wingman when they arrive at the auction.
Yes.
So speaking of watches, I started watching FBI because I'm sure people have seen the news that Tom Ellis is going to be on a new network show. Oh, fuck. Okay, I'm going to have to say that again. Ah,
do. Dogs. What you don't know is that they're protecting you from something. Maybe the wind.
probably the mailman who she sees every day.
No, they're evil every day. Trust me. They're
Well,
so
I mean,
mean.
it's funny because our mailman has actually befriended our really big dog
Mm,
by giving her bones all the time, but he's on vacation
exactly.
right now, so that's why they're
Ah,
talking.
they're like,
No bones right
where
now.
where are my
Where are my
where's
treats, man?
where's my protection money, huh? Huh? You come to my house? You better pay me in bones. They're like, I respect the almighty bones
Oh my
dollar.
god. Okay, I gotta keep that in.
That's right.
Uh, okay, so I have started an FBI watch because I don't know if people have heard, but Tom Ellis has a new show that he's going to be on this coming fall. He's going to be on an offshoot of FBI, which is a Dick Wolf show, and it's going to be called CIA. He's going to be teaming up with someone from the FBI, and I think it's going to be a male character because he gave an interview recently and he says he he said, yeah, he at some point he dropped that it's going to be a male character that he partners up with. But I'm not totally in love with his character's name. It's going to be Hart Hoxton.
Hmm.
I think I'm going to have to let that grow on me a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I like the show so far. So it sounds like it's going to be more of a serious kind of show, though, because I mean, I watch a lot of the Law and Orders. Yeah, Dick Wolf shows tend to be more serious, but we'll see how he does with that. I think they're probably going to start production soon because, like I said, it's set for the
yeah.
fall. Yeah. All right, let's move on to LuciTunes. There are actually a lot of good songs in this one, even though they're barely played. They're mostly
Mhm.
transitional music. There's Talking Body by Tove Lo. That's from the opening at Lux. There's Before the Light Takes Us by Darkness Falls. I didn't write down where that's from. There's Get Some Freedom by Big Data. That's when they're heading to the auction. This is actually a really good song to run to.
Mm, mhm.
I have a whole playlist for Lucifer songs that you can run to because they're some of them are really high energy, so it
Yeah,
helps
you
you
gotta
run
have
faster.
this is the best thing about the Lucifer soundtrack. You have, like, the songs to cry to and the songs
Yep,
to run to.
yep,
There
yep.
you go. It does it all.
Then there's Getting Surreal by the Fratellis, and I gotta go look them up. Is that a Goonies reference?
Could be.
That's Before the Auction, and then the last one is from their piano conversation. It's Breathe Into Me by Marion Hill. That was a really nice song.
It is a really good song. It's on the crying list, not the running list.
Yes, yes. Or the romance list.
Mhm, mhm.
The wispy romance one.
I think we all know that leads to tears as well.
So the good, the bad, and the crispy. My good was his knitting comment. He says, "How fascinatingly morose. Do you ever think about taking up knitting?" I like any mention of knitting.
And it's just a great, like, it's so bantery and perfect. I think my good is actually the brother fight on the beach and
Uh,
the fall as I did moment that we talked about, because I just makes me happy to get that bit of, like, lore mixed with characterization. Yeah, it's good stuff.
so my bad was the flashback to the shooting at Palmetto, just because the way that the scene was with like this random hand just like shooting a gun, it was just kind of cheesy looking.
My bad is such a nitpick, and I would like to preemptively apologize to the poor actor that I'm about to
Uh oh.
comment on, but in the scene in the hospital when they take Malcolm off of life support,
Yeah.
the doctor character who doesn't have any lines, like, his, like, non-speaking role, and it's obvious that he's in a non-speaking role because even when he should have lines, he has no lines. So I'm like, maybe this is just like an extra or whatever. He's so bad, and he's overacting so much. Like, it pulls me out of the scene because it's like this, the scene is like serious. He's dying. They're pulling, and then this poor dude is just making faces, like emoting, and I'm like, oh, it's just so bad. And then he comes back into the scene when Amenadiel makes him come back and he's still bad. So I'm like, I'm sorry, random, maybe extra guy. Like, I know you were trying to do your best and maybe trying to get a line out of it, but, like, it was
I think
just
he
bad.
does actually have a line though, because I swear I heard somebody like cry out, "What?" Like when he comes back, and I agree that part is kind of like even that one part is just very overdone.
It's all like, it's some intense, like, stage acting, not film acting. There's a lot of things happening there. I'm like, of all the things to put, but it's such a moment. Also, I will say that, as we've discussed, there are quite a few little things that don't line up very well
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this episode in terms of, like, motivation and like I don't. It feels a bit like I know that it's kind of an important episode for building the arc that's going to take us through the
Yeah,
end of the
yeah,
season, but a lot of it feels kind of like pasted together unnaturally
yeah, yeah.
and not just in terms of driving time or the night that never ends. Like, oh my God, these guys need to go home and get some sleep. They've been working for a long time.
So my crispy is that early scene when Lucifer shows up and like when she says, I can't do with your Luciferness. But I also like when he comes back and he's just come from meeting with Amenadiel and he like there was something that Amenadiel said where he basically just repeated back what Lucifer said. And so Lucifer is irritated by that. So when Chloe does the same thing, he says, am I not enunciating today? I like his delivery on that line.
Mm-hmm. My crispy is the final piano conversation,
Hmm.
just because they both look so good, and also
And oh, they're
they
making
have
up.
they're making up. They're a real team for Maze. I just also want to say that as a side bonus of this episode, there's the scene where Lucifer and Amenadiel are on the beach in the daytime.
Hmm.
Lucifer looks particularly good in that scene. Like his eyeliner is on point in
Mm.
this episode, and his hair is all
His hair
curly.
is all windswept.
Just good.
Yeah.
It was a good look. Au naturel. But I actually
And,
wrote that down in
and
my
and at
notes.
some point he was wearing a black shirt with a black jacket.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
like when he wears black with black. And he
Yeah.
wore a tux too, so
Yeah. That's just bonus crispy anytime Lucifer's in a tux.
all right, we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be back with a new Lucy quiz. All right, we're back with a new Lucy quiz. You can check out our social media accounts for a bonus question. The way this works is I'm going to ask 5 questions of increasing difficulty about the episode we just discussed, and you'll have 5 seconds to come up with an answer. Question 1. What type of facility is the location at Palmetto Street?
Oh, I think is it like a wrestling gym?
I think it's like a boxing gym, but yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of the
right.
same. Punching each other gym.
Question 2. What do Amenadiel and Lucifer joke Paul should have been the saint of?
Honey cakes.
Yeah, correct.
Couldn't pass up a dessert, that guy.
Question 3. What was Nicholas Audi's weapon of choice?
Hammer.
Hey, good job.
That was also a very funny moment where Lucifer's like, "Can I have a gun?"
Yeah.
No. Can I have a hammer?
I love how Dan is like so exasperated. He just like throws up his hands and turns away.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't believe I have to put up with this crap.
Chloe does it all day, every day, man.
Okay, question 4. How soon can Lucifer get his wings back after the raid?
30 days.
Yeah. I feel like this quiz is pretty easy overall. I couldn't really find like hard questions to come up with.
I feel gratified. So it's good to throw me the easy one every once in a while.
All right, final question. Which side of his face does Amenadiel give Lucifer a black eye?
His left side.
Yes, his left. Okay, any last thoughts?
No, I like this one, but I know that isn't next one like
Very meaty. It's Et tu Doctor.
yeah.
That's a good one.
Yes.
It's funny how I can hear like the episode title and I know it's going to be good or if it's going to be filler.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, back to Linda. We haven't seen her for a whole episode. And Trixie.
Yes. Can't have Lucifer without Trixie. All right. If you're enjoying Rom-Com Detectives, please be sure to leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. For our question of the week, leave us a comment on Spotify, YouTube, or Reddit and tell us how you think Chloe got into the auction.
Hot Tub High School.
Oh, yeah.
Woo!
If you'd like to join additional conversations about Lucifer, you can visit the Lucifer subreddit at reddit.com/r/Lucifer. To contact me and Tara, you can email us at host@romcomdetectives.com, follow us on Instagram, Threads, or Blue Sky at romcomdetectives, or leave us a voicemail or text message at 1-650-733-XOXO or 9696. This episode of Rom-Com Detectives was recorded on June 14, 2025. Rom-Com Detectives Lucifer Unit is co-hosted by Crystal Watanabe and Tara Avery and is produced by Pico's House. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next time for our breakdown of It 2 Doctor. Bye.
Bye.